Let's talk about why a five-star hotel really is a must in your travel plans. So, you can actually stay in a five-star hotel and have the trip of your lifetime that you deserve. The big secret I'm going to let you into right now is that it's not all about your travel budget. Yes, travel budget is something we need to think about, but actually I find in talking to most women over 50, traveling solo or with a friend or friends, it's all about mindset. That's the really big barrier we actually have to overcome. So bear with me while I set the scene a bit here. I grew up in pretty humble circumstances. My dad died when I was a child, and as a result, we were left homeless. And my mother did an amazing job of raising my five brothers and I. But I was always conscious of being poor. And I've had the great privilege to actually have a career, build more than one business, and that's allowed me the money and budget to a degree to travel. And so the whole idea of, being middle class and thinking that I didn't deserve or I wasn't good enough or I'd feel really uncomfortable flying business or first class, staying in a five-star hotel, or heck, even using a private car service, were all things that wasn't about the dollars and cents, but was getting out of my mind. So, what we tend to bring even to our travel goals and dreams is all those old money mindset gremlins like, can I really afford this? What else should I really be spending the money on? Do I deserve this? And at the end of the day, we're going to break that down so that you can get planning on booking that five-star hotel accommodation right now for the trip of a lifetime that you've been wanting to do. And so I'm going to give you 5 reasons why actually it's a really good thing and how to manage that within a budget. So you with me so far? Okay, good. Let's get going. The first one, and it really is, I've done it in order, this number one is all around safety. At the end of the day, again, let me kind of give some context here. I spent over 20 years traveling on my own each week across the country and actually across into other countries. And so I was staying in hotels like, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday through to Thursday night, and sometimes back-to-back weeks. So I've learned heaps about being safe in hotels. And, if I fast forward, I was planning a solo leisure trip to Thailand that included staying in Bangkok. And it's really sad because there are all these horror stories about, how sleazy and crime-ridden everything it is in Thailand and Bangkok. And yes, there's an underbelly like there is to any large city or in certain countries. But Thailand is this amazing, vibrant place to visit. And I traveled there on my own as a woman over 50. But I did some things from a safety point of view to make sure that I was maximizing what I could do about my safety. Okay, so I wanted to ensure my taxi would be driving me to a safe area of the city, because actually my first trip I was arriving really late at night, and my second time I was back in Bangkok I was arriving really early in the morning. I wanted to know that I could get help wherever I was staying. And when you stay at a five-star hotel, you will have a concierge who becomes the woman traveling over 50 solos BFF. They are your best friend literally forever. Well, at least certainly for your stay. I also wanted to know that when I went, the hotel was in a safe location and area, so I could step out and wander around and not be looking over my shoulder. But also I wanted to ensure that when I did need to go further out into the city, that I could easily get a taxi driver into the bellhop, and B, that the taxi driver could find and know where the hotel was that I was going back to, rather than some kind of, small place that's kind of out of the way. And last but not least, I wanted to be safe inside the hotel. The worst thing, ladies, that you can possibly have happen is have this amazing trip going to an amazing country and locations, and you actually don't even feel safe inside your room, inside the hotel. So that to me was another, I wanted to get into the elevator knowing that I would be safe and going to have a great night's sleep. I also wanted to make sure and that I'm in a place where the hotel staff, like the front desk, would know who I am, that I'm not just this nameless face in a sea of hundreds or thousands of people coming and going to the hotel. So for me, safety alone always puts a 5-star hotel at the top of my list. The next one is, and let's cut to the chase, is about spending your budget. And it comes down to your entire trip doesn't have to be a 5-star trip. So you can allocate your budget to what makes sense for you. And that's quite the mind switch, because I think we all think, well, if I'm staying in a 5-star hotel, I need to travel business class, I need to have a private car. No. You might be someone that says, you know what, I'm going to a really new and different place. Maybe if I just spent some of my travel budget dollars staying the first 1-2 nights in a 5-star hotel. And then once you're oriented, you might say, well, you know what, I'm actually going to be able to actually now move into, say, a different area, move on, now that, you found your feet. So, it really comes down to, what do you want? What do you want your experience to be? Like, I know for me that not only did I want a safe hotel to stay in when I went to Bangkok, but I love to swim. So I wanted to make sure that I had amenities that actually I could stay in the hotel even if I didn't go out, like if it rained all day. And so part of my selection going back to the Bangkok trip was I chose a hotel that had this amazing infinity swimming pool, on the 18th floor with amazing views of the city. It also had amazing dine-in options. So it saved me grabbing a taxi, going somewhere else if I was tired at the end of the day of touring around. So all these things add up and make a difference. So like I said, you can have your whole stay as a 5-star hotel experience, or you can have a portion at the beginning, at the end, or in the middle and treat yourself, whatever you want to do. Okay, number 3. Not all 5-star hotel experiences are the same. And you're probably going, but Raywin, you're just trying to convince me to go book a 5-star hotel. Well, I want you to be a savvy traveler, and I want you to be armed with really good information. So think about it. Not all 5-star hotels are equal. Let's actually walk through a practical example. Many of the American chains of hotels actually have different brand levels. I'll use Marriott example. There's JW Marriott. They have, Marriott Courtyards. But not only that, they also operate in foreign countries. And ironically, you will find more often than not that some of their properties that they have in Europe and Asia are so much more superior to their US and Canadian counterparts. And what do I mean by that? I mean that, at the end of the day, you could be staying in this amazing architectural building with amazing ambience and atmosphere and architecture. And I've certainly had that experience both in Europe and in Asia. Not only did I find that they're in the most amazing buildings and location, which just kind of amplify your whole travel experience, but also, believe it or not, often your dollar will stretch further on your travel budget. And again, I'll give you an example. I stayed in a 5-star hotel in Bangkok in Asia, and it was stupendous. Like I said, it had an infinity pool, it had a beautiful rooftop restaurant and bar on the 33rd level, it actually had a spa, it had at least I think 3 different restaurants in house, it had this amazing kind of quiet lobby area where you could have your latte and Danish. And it was just amazing. And the architecture of the building was stunning. And again, the views were amazing. That hotel at a 5-star cost me about 30% less than the equivalent of staying in a 5-star hotel in the US, where, I was paying 30% more. And yes, the service was great, but there was nothing to write home to in the amenities. It was basically a hotel with a restaurant, with a bar, beautiful rooms, and that was pretty much it. No hotel, no fancy rooftop bar or anything like that. So really at the end of the day, your dollar can in fact stretch further than you might think in some cases. It does depend on the country, depends on the country you're coming from, the exchange rate and what you're selecting. But it's so worth looking at. Okay, number 4. How do you find creative ways to extend your budget? We just talked about how to actually reallocate our dollars in terms of like maybe you only stay a couple of days in a 5-star hotel. But in addition to moving the money jars around, if you will, for your travel budget, there are creative ways also that you can actually make your dollars stretch further and bring other things into play. I always say the number one thing is be a loyal guest. And what I mean by that is sign up for every hotel points program remotely that you're going to stay in. And even if you think, but Raywin, I might never stay in that type of hotel again, still sign up for the points. Points are points. And secondly, being a loyal guest, actually, as you do travel more, and like I said, you could travel in a Marriott Courtyard versus a JW 5-star Marriott. That's still all building points, and it's building loyalty as a guest. I will tell you, there is nothing, more pleasant and welcoming and feeling really intimate when you walk into a hotel and you step up to the front desk and they check your reservation. They go, "Welcome back, Raywin or Mrs. Christ. You know, it's so lovely to have you stay at a JW or a Marriott property again." And so all kinds of things happen as a result of that, about extending your budget. I have been upgraded to suites many times just because I've been a loyal guest. Number 2 is I'm always polite, professional, and patient. I call them my 3 Ps. And that doesn't matter whether I'm coming into a hotel or flying or any other aspect of my travel. Because one of the things I learned traveling for business for 20 years is, ladies, let me into you a little secret. Our colleagues, our male colleagues, are not as pleasant as they could be on a consistent basis. And, I've seen them being so rude, so abrupt. And then I walk up to the front desk and I do the 3 Ps, being polite, professional, and patient. And I smile and I say please and thank you. And you will be just amazed. Even if I'm not upgraded, they've put me in a better room with a better view for what I booked. So ultimately, at the end of the day, these are all ways that end up extending your budget. Some of them aren't just hard, tangible dollars, but they pay off in just spades to having the most amazing experience. I've already mentioned join every loyalty program that you can. And if you're still looking for other ways to create that 5-star experience, you've reallocated your budget, you've got loyalty points. And by the way, going back to loyalty points, you can often transfer points from one program to another. You might have a credit card that accumulates points, and you can choose to transfer those points to an airline or to a hotel loyalty program, or vice versa. And you can consolidate points. So you don't always have to just get points from going and staying at the one place, because you may not have traveled to date. You may only be traveling infrequently, but there's other ways that you can accumulate points that translate into dollars and a 5-star hotel experience. Okay, I mentioned that there is a couple of other ways to actually extend your budget to have a 5-star luxury stay. One of them is pooling resources. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is, often you're traveling solo, I get it. But also you might be traveling with a girlfriend or maybe a couple of girlfriends. And I'm very fortunate. Well, yes, I belong to loyalty programs, but my best travel buddy still continues to fly from a work point of view, and she's kind of like titanium, status in most programs. So when we travel for fun and vacation and leisure, I do all the planning and the organizing, and her contribution is she will often book the hotel under her name, both my room and hers, because it's recognized under her status. And so if you've got a friend or you want to, that's a great way to actually, get the experience when you're traveling with someone else. The last thing also isn't strictly a hotel, but many major hotel brands like Marriott, like Hyatt and Hilton definitely, and Marriott actually have timeshares. And so you might again have a family member or a friend who has a timeshare, and they can swap that timeshare out for different locations. They may not use it a particular year. So you could offer to buy their timeshare for a particular week and a particular year if they're not going to use it. So it's just another creative way. I've done that in the past, and the way I've done it is I've offered to pay my friend the annual maintenance fee for that week or 2 weeks of their timeshare. I get a great 5-star experience. They don't get to lose out on actually using their timeshare. It goes to good use, and they've got dollars back in their pocket as well. Okay, are you ready for the last one? Number 5 is all about, you guessed it, beating that scarcity gremlin in your head, ladies. And can we have a little chat here? And I say this with love and way too much personal experience in this department. We seem to, as women, and especially those of us as women over 50, have been raised with a truckload of guilt, even when there's none to be had. So we want to get rid of the guilt. And we're also hardwired to help others, and in the process often sacrifice ourselves. So your mindset will matter way more than finding the dollars in your travel budget for a 5-star hotel. So how do you get over that scarcity gremlin in your head, like the little hamster, the boogeyman that's racing around in your head? Here's what you can do. Ask yourself these basic questions. Number 1, if I'm not going to do it now, when exactly, on what year, what month, or what day am I going to do it? Because if it's not out in the future with a big red ring around it on the calendar, it's not going to happen. Number 2 is, too often we experience, ladies, a life-altering experience that we realize we've only got one life to live. It could be losing a loved one. It could be going through a divorce. It could be getting ill for yourself or someone else, a spouse or a family member. The list goes on. And the only regret, the number one thing, people on their dying bed, sorry to be a Debbie Downer here for a moment, is they regret not having done more in their life and stepped out and done those things. So ask yourself these simple questions. Will I regret not doing this? Why should I say yes to this versus all the reasons I can say no? I can think those up really easy. So just say yes. And last but not least, if I do this, where else can I save money? Not only on my travel budget, but maybe my regular day-to-day life budget. Maybe I do skip those lattes at Starbucks, for the next, year. Wouldn't you rather do that and have a couple of nights or a week in a 5-star hotel in a foreign country you've always dreamed of traveling? Yeah, I know you do.